so good, and we will hear new single Carry You Home shortly, but I've been speaking to frontman Kieran about the new album and upcoming tour. He told me how it felt to have the record finally out there.
It feels good. It's particularly good with this one because it feels like a long time away in terms of like the pandemic and all that rubbish stuff. And we sort of felt like we weren't going to be a band again. So to actually have an album out, it kind of it confirms that we actually are still a band, which is nice. Yeah, I mean, we couldn't do anything with Sad Happy, really. We just had to sort of sit at home and imagine that we could play it live one day, but didn't actually know. So now that this record was made in a sort of a positive affirmation to go and play this live. Like I wanted these songs to eventually see the light of day and make people jump around and lose their minds a little bit. So now I know that that's going to happen. It feels great. I'm very excited.
You did eventually get out and play the tunes from Sad Happy. I was at the Leicester gig and it was a great night, and it almost felt like the anticipation to hear those songs and dance around, as you say, had been building so much for those. But are you excited for these songs that they are still so fresh for the fans that you're going to be out there, and it feels like it'll be a different experience?
Yeah, I mean, like I remember writing songs when I was younger, and I would be interested to see if like 20 people responded to it or sung the words back, like when I was playing in like the local clubs. And now we're about to play venues that are like 2,000 to 5,000 capacity, and I'm still wondering whether people are going to sing them back, except when they do sing it back, it's like an army of people singing it. So it's like, you're either like, oh, well, no one seemed to connect with that bit, or you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest moment in my life. Because people singing your music back to you is the real drug that is being in a band, I guess.
I'm wondering, 5 albums in, whether you ever think that'll change, that thrill of the fans singing back the new songs to you.
It's not changed yet. It's been 10 years and I'm still, if anything, it gets better because you kind of can't believe that you're still doing this for a job. And with every record, you do wonder, like, are they going to respond to this one? Is it, have I lost my touch? So no, it's always amazing, man.
I'm delighted to say, for anybody who hasn't heard it yet, you haven't lost your touch, because the new album, Never Going Under, it's an absolute belter, mate. Take us back to the start, the thought process when coming to start this album, because as you say, you didn't have the same experience for Sad Happy as you would expect. So were you keen to get into the studio and work quicker maybe to get another one out there?
I think it felt like, I think the further you get into anything, when we first started, you overthink everything and you want everything to be perfect, and you these like we've always chopped and changed as a band, so I'm always wondering what Circa Waves actually is, because each album sounds a little bit different and stuff. Whereas with this, I was like, I just don't care anymore. I just want to make great music. I just had to believe in ourselves as a good live band, and believe in myself as a songwriter. So I just wrote a ton of different stuff, like from like shoegaze to like folk to more Tame Impala kind of vibes and all that, and then tried to make it all work as a record. So it does feel like a bit of a jumble as a record. There's it moves and changes, but hopefully it still feels like it's us. Do you know what I mean?
I think what's interesting about you saying there about almost having the freedom or maybe putting less pressure on yourself, because you've clearly tried something different in terms of the songwriting. Tell us a bit about, because this album is from a different perspective, shall we say. Tell us about this.
Well, I mean, the world is ever changing. I mean, I've got a kid now, so that makes me write in a different way and think about the future in a different way, I guess. It's strange times that we're living in, isn't it? It seems like on the news there's always something going wrong, or something, whether it be war or Boris Johnson or the pandemic or Brexit, or it's just, I was just trying to write an album that made me feel good, that was a bit cathartic and a bit like a therapy session for myself, and hopefully that's how people feel when they listen to it. They feel like you're sort of doing a bit of an exorcism of all that rubbish, really.
Well, the bit I wanted to pick at, and from the press release, and I've been told off many times by bands for using the press releases against them in a way. But there is, you mentioned about the perspective of your son and thinking about the future that sort of him and his peers might be dealing with. And so when writing the songs, did you imagine yourself from the perspective of your son, or is it more generally thinking about the world and the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe I'd said perspective of my son at some point to somebody and someone's wrote that down. You know how these things work. But I think it was more like, I've got like a 3-year-old, and I was thinking, like, in 15 years, what is social media going to be like? Like, will your thoughts just be drilled into your friends' brains and like their opinions just be sent through their eyes? You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like this idea that technology is moving in a wildly fast way. And my concern for social media now and what it's doing to people is quite high. So I was thinking, like, what is it actually going to be like in 15, 20 years? I mean, it's unimaginable, really. And I don't know how it will affect us all. But yeah, it was just that sort of that mindset.
I suppose more generally then, you did already touch upon it, but mentioned before, 5th album now, having that freedom in a way and that confidence to know that actually what we're doing is good and we've got fans and they clearly are loving what we do. So having the freedom to maybe think about the writing in a way a little bit more, but in some ways a little bit less, and sort of just go with what feels right.
Yeah, I mean, with being able to continue as a band and keeping where we are, you get a validation and a confidence, I guess, that people like your music and they're still listening to it, and that gives you confidence to kind of believe in yourself and just believe in writing what you want, really. If the gigs were getting smaller and smaller and we were playing to no one, then maybe you'd be like, oh no, I need to try and recreate what we had at the start. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like people have come on this journey with us and are happy to evolve with us. I see people from the first album tour in these new gigs now, and they've grown up with us. There's people who start to come and see us when they're 16 and they're 26 now. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I've lived a lifetime with some of these people, and we've got to be around each other for that long. So that's like something that I never expected when I started the band, but it's like just this brilliant side effect of it, I guess.
Speaking of which, the gig closest to us in Leicester, it's at Rock City in Nottingham. Clearly such a brilliant venue, a well-loved venue. I know there's so many musicians who say it's their favourite to play, or certainly one of. How are you feeling about that show, but actually just generally getting out there and playing?
I'm really excited. As I said, I'm looking forward to seeing which of the new songs get people singing back and get people moving and stuff. But Rock City's always been there. It's been one that we play on pretty much every UK run. And it's without doubt, there's when we go there, they put pictures on the walls of the gigs that have been played there. And I think there's 1 or 2 of us up there. And I always get there and look at it and go, oh man, that was such a fun gig. I remember that. Because there's smiles on our faces and you can just see how much we're into it. It never lets us down. So I'm obviously excited about it.
Let's hear one of the new tunes. Carry You Home. Before I get you to introduce it, mate, tell us about this song, the story behind it, and sort of where you were when it came and when you wrote it.
Yeah, it started off as like a little folk tune, to be honest. Like I was listening to probably like a lot of Bon Iver and stuff, but it was about when I had my son. He was kept in hospital for 5 days with jaundice, which is like this thing where they have to basically shine a light on you and make you better. But it was like 5 days of every day going, can I bring him home now? No, can I bring? So every day it's this thing, and like I felt this human passion to protect him and carry him home, essentially. So that it was an unusual feeling and something I've never felt with anything else before. So yeah, eventually I did get to carry him home, and that's what it's about. It's just about trying to be a protective father, I guess.
Could you have imagined 10 years ago, writing the tunes for the first album, that you would be here now talking about album 5, and not just talking about album 5, but writing this loving, protective song for your newborn son?
It's mad, isn't it? I mean, not at all. No, I mean, the first album is so far removed from this sort of song. But I guess like the essence of my songwriting is still the same. But yeah, the first album's just all about getting drunk, whereas this one's... There's only one song about getting drunk on this album, unfortunately.
That's growing up, unfortunately, mate. Kieran from Circa Waves, a pleasure as always. The album is brilliant. It's never going under. Mate, will you introduce this tune for us?
Yeah, this is our new single. I hope you love it. And yeah, it's called Carry You Home.